He sat alone at the corner table, staring at a cracked coffee cup that wasn't even his. Just hours ago, he owned skyscrapers, private jets, and influence powerful enough to move markets. Now, he couldn't even afford the tip. Across the diner, a young waitress froze mid-step when she looked at him. What she did next, without knowing who he truly was, would change both of their lives forever. Stay until the end. Because what happens in the final seconds is something no amount of money could ever buy. Ethan Blackwood had always believed success was permanent. You didn't climb to the top of the financial world by accident, and you certainly didn't fall, at least that's what he told himself. Until the morning his phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Banks froze his accounts. Partners stopped answering calls. News headlines screamed words like fraud, collapse, and investigation. A deal he had trusted blindly had turned toxic overnight, dragging his entire empire down with it. By noon, Ethan's lawyers told him the truth no billionaire ever wants to hear: we need time. And right now, you don't have it. By evening, his penthouse locks were disabled. And by nightfall, Ethan found himself walking aimlessly through the city he once owned in every way that mattered. Rain soaked his tailored suit. His watch, worth more than most cars, felt heavy and useless. For the first time in decades, no one recognized him. No assistants. No drivers. No respect. Hunger finally forced him into a small roadside diner glowing softly under flickering neon lights. He slid into a booth and ordered the cheapest thing on the menu. Coffee. That was all he could risk. As he stared into the dark liquid, memories flooded his mind, boardrooms filled with applause, deals sealed with handshakes, a life built on winning. And now, silence. That's when the waitress approached. She couldn't have been older than 23. Tired eyes. Worn shoes. A kindness in her face that hadn't yet been crushed by life. Rough day. She asked softly, placing the cup in front of him. Ethan almost laughed. She had no idea. No, he replied quietly. Just, lost everything. She nodded, not with pity, but understanding. As if she knew that feeling far too well. When he reached into his pocket, his heart sank. No cash. No working cards. Nothing. I'm sorry, he said, his voice tight. I can't pay. The words tasted like failure. The waitress looked at the cup, then back at him. And in that moment, seconds before the manager noticed, she made a decision that would rewrite both their futures. The waitress gently pushed the coffee closer to Ethan. Don't worry about it, she said. It's on me. Ethan froze. You don't have to, he began. I know, she interrupted softly. But I want to. Before he could argue, she leaned closer and whispered, some days, all a person needs is someone who doesn't walk away. Then she stood up and walked off as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But for Ethan, the world had stopped. No one had ever done something like that for him without expecting something in return. Not in years. Maybe not ever. He sat there long after the coffee went cold, replaying her words again and again. Someone who doesn't walk away. When he finally left, the rain had stopped. The city felt quieter. Different. Days passed. Ethan slept on couches. He wore the same clothes. He watched former friends distance themselves like he was contagious. But that moment in the diner stayed with him. A week later, he returned. The waitress recognized him instantly. You're back, she said, surprised. I needed to say thank you, he replied. Properly. She smiled. You already did. You came back. They talked, really talked. Her name was Lily. She worked 2 jobs. Took care of her younger brother. Dreamed of studying nursing but couldn't afford tuition. She had never asked Ethan who he was. And for the first time in his life, he didn't tell her. Months later, the investigation cleared Ethan. The collapse had been engineered by partners who vanished when exposed. Slowly, painfully, his empire returned. The first thing he did. He bought the diner. Not to change it. Not to brand it. but to protect it. He found Lily on her shift one evening and handed her a folder. Inside was a full scholarship. Living expenses covered. No contracts. No conditions. She stared at him, shaking. Why? Ethan smiled, the kind of smile money had never given him. Because you gave me something when I had nothing, he said. And it saved me. Years later, Ethan would rebuild his fortune bigger than before. But when asked what truly changed his life, he never mentioned stocks or deals. He talked about a waitress, a cup of coffee, and 10 seconds of kindness that reminded him who he was.